My name is Karen Dabdoob. I'm the Executive Director for the Cincinnati chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations. Employment discrimination cases is the largest category of civil rights cases that we get here in this office. So it's very important for people to understand what their rights are in regard to their job. That's how they make their living. And a lot of times people have their rights violated. They can lose their job, they can lose out on employment opportunities because of discrimination, and that's not right. It's important for all Americans to know what their rights are in all areas of their life, but especially in employment, because that's how we earn our living, that's how we support our families. And if that's taken away from us, we lose so much.
Under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, there are certain rights afforded to you, one of those rights being the right to having a reasonable religious accommodation in the workplace. Essentially, an employer must make reasonable religious accommodations for you to ensure that you can practice your religious beliefs, so long as it's not an undue burden to the employer.
And as Americans, if we don't stand up for our rights, then we don't have them. It's as simple as that. They're only on paper.
An employer is not allowed to take your religion into consideration when making any employment decisions. The law prohibits discrimination with regards to any aspect of your employment, including hiring, firing, any job reassignments. You also have the right to be able to complain about any possible discrimination happening without the fear of retaliation. What that means is that your employer cannot fire you for bringing up any claim of any alleged discrimination happening in the workplace. An employer must ensure that you are not subjected to any anti-Muslim remarks, any anti-Muslim insults, any harassment.
In terms of civil rights cases, there was one just very recent that people may have seen on TV, case of Samantha Elaf, who applied for a job and took the test, the employment test, and passed it with flying colors, and they actually took points off of her test because she wore hijab. They didn't want to have to make the accommodation. And it went through the whole court system and finally to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. As an employer, you are required by the law to make reasonable accommodation. And they didn't want to do that. That case with Samantha Elaf, who at the time that the case was filed was a teenager. And she stuck with the whole way through and won the case in the Supreme Court. And now that victory is something that will benefit Muslim women across the country for years and years to come. We had a case a couple of years ago where 23 employees were fired for insisting on their right to be able to pray at work. And they had been praying at work for years. And then the company decided to change their policy on their break schedule and would not allow these employees to have flexible break times so that they could say their prayers on time. And when the employees insisted that they had the right to be able to pray on time, the company fired all 24 of them on the spot.
You have the right to practice your religious beliefs, such as being able to wear a beard, being able to wear hijab, being able to pray at work, being able to attend Jummah or Eid prayers. You want to make sure that you get these reasonable religious accommodations in writing and that you also state the amount of time that you need off. So what do you do if you feel like you're being discriminated against or if you're facing any harassment in the workplace? The first thing that you want to do is that you want to remain calm. You want to make sure that you inform the offending party that their actions are discriminatory. You want to make sure that you file a written complaint with the company's management. And it's extremely important that you start documenting everything. So basically keep any memos, keep a detailed journal, keep a list of any witnesses that could have seen the discrimination. Don't sign anything. Don't resign or walk off the place of your employment without consulting an attorney. And most importantly, contact CAIR at the first sign of trouble.
If you wait and wait and wait and think you can handle it by yourself, a lot of times things will get out of control and it gets to the point where sometimes there's not much that we can do. Or we end up being in a reactive stance instead of in a proactive stance. When you're talking about people's jobs, you're getting at the very core of human dignity. To be able to have a job and to earn an income and support your family is extremely important. and you don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize that. We're not an expensive law firm. We don't charge you by the hour. We don't charge you at all. It's free.